For everybody out there, step one in becoming a consistently profitable trader, step one in the whole process is to be a consistently losing trader.
You don't have to learn to trade alone. Welcome to the Trading Lifestyle Podcast, where we interview professional currency traders and industry experts who can help you improve your trading and your life. And now, your host, Hugh Kimura.
On this episode of the Trading Lifestyle Podcast, I interview two successful traders who are starting a hedge fund that uses artificial intelligence and biodata to improve the performance of their traders. They are also in the process of hiring traders, and they say they can take traders from anywhere in the world, even if they are break-even or trading a demo account. To learn how this works, check out this interview with Chris Capre and Ken Medanić. Before we get started, remember that trading is risky and you could lose all of your investment. This podcast is for educational purposes only and is not trading, tax, or investment advice of any kind. Past performance does not guarantee future results. Hey guys, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us, Hugh. Good to be here.
Yeah, so I thought maybe we could start with quick introductions for people who don't know you. Maybe you could introduce yourself, how you got started in trading, and anything else you want to share.
Ken, do you want to start?
Okay. Started trading back at university while studying finance and had a lot of success. I was very, very automated and intuitive at the same time. Yeah, I've traded almost every instrument, had offers from banks and from hedge funds straight out of university, but started a trading partnership and didn't look back from there. I retired at the age of 32, which was premature. And then in 2007, started to get back into it. But this time, the focus was really about how to consistently be profitable. The streaks of winners and then followed by a streak of losers, that was something that I knew in some shape or form could be changed. I just intuitively knew that there was a way of being able to consistently perform well and not have such volatility. And that led me into qualitative analysis, which then led me into quantitative analysis using biofeedback and neurofeedback software. And then over the course of the last 9 years, really been perfecting the ability to monitor the body, correlate that with performance, in particular with trading the financial markets, which led us into wearable technology, because you still need to be comfortable whilst you're trading and being able to monitor your own performance in real time. And, over the last, say, 2 years, we've integrated artificial intelligence in all of that. And are really coming up to some wonderful biodata-based entry and exit signals, which we're really going to go deeper with the pilot program that's starting in February. So that's a little bit about myself.
Okay, cool. Chris?
So 20 years ago, it was my last year at the university, and I was actually already done with my degree in philosophy, and I was doing my master's in philosophy while getting my undergraduate in neuroscience. And I came to the class really sick, and I probably shouldn't have been there because I might have given it to others, but I had noticed in the class how much my cognitive performance was being affected by just my physical well-being in that moment. And so I kind of had this dream and vision that what if we could use wearable technology to regulate some of my biological kind of reactions and processes, my breathing, the concentration of air that I'm breathing, my neurological patterns. And I thought to myself, wow, if we could do that, then we could really improve the learning process and experience for everybody in all fields. A couple years later, I started trading FX. It was one of the first few years that in 2001, it was one of the first few years that FX was available to the retail market, and had a fair amount of success pretty early on. I turned 3,000 into 63,000 or 83,000 in 6 months. And shortly after that kind of initial period, I got a job working as a broker on Wall Street. And that was where, things started to change for me in terms of how I understood the market, how I understood what trading is really about, how people performed. I got to see a lot of how people performed and different strategies and different ways that people approach the market, and how many of the same patterns had been that traders are experiencing today were around 100 years ago. On the level of human neurosis, human emotions that we experience around trading, fear of missing out, fear of pulling the trigger, being overworried or doubtful or not confident. These are the same emotions that traders had experienced, 100 years ago. And you can read all the books for people that traded in the early days of the stock market, and they experienced the same thing. And so this kind of opened me up to, okay, there's certain things that if traders, 100 years ago experienced and they're experiencing today, then it's obviously a really root issue. And this is something that has to be fixed. And so I started to really engage my training in kind of experience and study in neuroscience, and also someone who had started meditating in 2001. I've been meditating for 18 years, and I started to kind of really integrate these together into how I approach trading and how I taught people to approach trading. And so after trading for a hedge fund for a year after working for the brokerage, I opened up Second Skies, and we've been around for 11 years. And I feel like there's traders out there who have experience or training in psychology and neuroscience. There are traders out there who have kind of training in meditation, but there's nobody out there that has the training in the neuroscience that I do and the extensive meditation practice and experience I've had of someone who's done 18 years of practice, over 10,000 hours, someone who's done a 1-year meditation retreat, several 1-month meditation retreats, 150 weekend meditation retreats. I feel like in terms of that kind of combination, there's not really many people out there that have that. And so I feel like that's a unique perspective. And so through creating this kind of training and feedback, I had a student that Ken had. And they felt like, hey, you guys need to start communicating, because what you're talking about, what you're focused on, what you're really going after is the same thing. You're just hitting it from two different angles. Mm-hmm. And after our first conversation, to me, it was completely obvious that we had to work together. And so we kind of created this joint venture project with Second Skies and NeuroTrader that we're creating the world's first online hedge fund that uses wearable technology, biodata, and AI to create peak performing traders. And that's really what it's about. Ken and I are both athletically trained, and we both recognize the exact same parallels that trading is a peak performance activity. And so we have come together to kind of really say, look, we're going to take everything here to the next level. This, in 5-10 years from now, nobody else is going to be talking about education the way it was. Just like, by 2010, nobody was looking at Yahoo as a search engine. It was all Google. Mm-hmm. So we feel that this is going to be the standard, in a matter of years' time.
So there's basically two parts, right? The hedge fund and then the bio tracking. So maybe we could talk about the bio tracking first and kind of jump into, how that was developed, what kind of results you're seeing, at least in the beginning, and, what you want to see going forward with that.
Ken, do you want to start off with this one, talking about biodata and wearable technology?
It all comes back to the power of the whole technology is that it doesn't matter what your level of education is. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic background is, what your race, religion, or creed is. All of us as human beings have certain biological things which are the same for everybody. We all have body temperature, which has a homeostatic body temperature of 36.7 degrees Celsius, but our biology is all the same. And this allows any person to be able to get into what's known as a state of peak alpha, that is, to get into the flow. That's why, there's not a country in the world that hasn't produced a peak performing athlete in some field of endeavor. So utilizing this, we know that regardless of who you are, with the right type of training, we can get you to access peak alpha more often. And also, when you actually get into the state of peak alpha, we can actually train you to hold that state for longer than what you used to. Everybody has experienced peak alpha. Everybody on the planet has. The only question is, how often do you do it? When you're in peak alpha, how long can you hold it? And can you do it on demand? Are there certain times of the day where you get into a state, not so much in terms of like the Tony Robbins type NLP stuff, but more in terms of biological conditioning, where same as any elite athlete, the fact that you're walking onto the pitch or you're walking onto the tennis court, this automatically puts you in a certain frame of mind. Now, this process works all the time, right? It happens to every one of us. The only difference is, are you using this mechanism to feel doubtful, scared, and worried every time you sit down in front of your monitors? Or does sitting in front of the monitors actually get you into a peak state? Does it ignite that biological and neurological experience of, well, I need to be sharp, and I am sharp because I'm now trading? Most of us, and the stats, I love it when Chris sends me the statistics of the retail trader market. It's obvious that, most of the traders in the world get very fearful when they sit in front of the screen. Mm-hmm. Now, biologically, when we monitor someone who's fearful, everybody on the planet will demonstrate a similar type of biology, right? So our heart rate will change. Our peripheral temperature will get cold fingers, will perspire more. Our muscles will get more tense. Everybody, it doesn't matter who you are. When you're fearful, this is what happens. You go into a state of vasoconstriction. The same applies when you're in a great state, when you're comfortable, relaxed, when you're oozing with confidence. Everybody, again, has the same type of biology, regardless of who you are, man or woman. We still have vasodilation, blood's pumping everywhere, we're nice oxygenated, the muscles are relaxed, and we can't wait for what's happening next. Well, when you're in this fearful state, you can't wait for what's about to happen in the negative way. You're so fearful of what's going to happen. This is what we do in terms of monitoring our traders. And by knowing the difference between these two states of biology, we can tell whether or not you should be taking a position right now or whether you should not be taking a position now. Is this a biological state where the probability of making a good decision is high, or is your biology now one that has a high probability that it's going to be a reaction based on fear? And we all know that reacting to the markets out of a state of fear is most often than not a bad decision, again, simply because certain simple traits, like you don't have the right oxygenated blood in your brain, therefore your brain is not functioning the way that it should. Therefore, you can't make decisions as well as you can if you're in a peak state. So why make a decision if your brain's offline? Mm-hmm. So these are the types of things that we're doing for traders.
Very cool. And so for people who aren't familiar with NeuroTrader, what kind of device do you have to wear, or how is this measured?
All right. So it's a small device that wraps around your finger. Mm-hmm. And we've done that. So we've tested with even headsets and full body kits and everything. But you really need to be able to put something on nice and easy in the morning. You don't want to have much hassle putting it on. If you need to go to the bathroom, if you're going to have lunch or a coffee, you need to be able to take it off easy and put it back on without any fuss. So it's a very, very small device, wraps around usually your index finger of your non-dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, you'd wear it on your left hand, and collects your heart rate, your peripheral temperature, the temperature of your fingertips, and your perspiration via Bluetooth connection. It sends it to the PC. Our software at the PC pulls that in, sends it to the server, where it starts to do the data crunching with price and market sentiment, and the algorithms that we have up there in order to start to recognize the type of trader that you are, the type of responses that you're having to price, and where are you on that scale of suboptimal to optimal. All of us can train our way up to an optimal state of performance. Everybody can do it. Some person might be a little bit further advanced in terms of that development. Someone may be less. Some people have a faster growth than others. And again, growth fluctuates as well. Sometimes you might have a growth spurt in terms of your movement towards peak performance, and at other times you might slow down. But again, we can get everybody along the path towards optimal performance. It's just a matter of time.
And what kind of results have you been seeing so far in your testing or in your own results? Or
it usually takes, for the average person, it takes approximately 6 to 12 months to start to see recognizable biological changes where the person is starting to maintain a state of self-regulation regardless of market volatility. So that means that over the course of 6 to 12 months, you start to reprogram your autonomic nervous system, right? So between 6 to 12 months, every time you sit down in front of the trading screens, your heart rate will start to be consistently more relaxed. You'll start to create these associations where looking at the screens actually induces me to be relaxed now. It actually heightens my perceptual awareness. And again, it's a reprogramming of the autonomic nervous system. So we want to decrease the trauma that you're currently experiencing like if you're getting very nervous when you're looking at the screens, it's actually, in terms of psychology, you're actually experiencing trauma. Now, psychologists will say it's trauma with a little t, not with a capital T. But nonetheless, you're still experiencing a traumatic state. Mm-hmm. And when you're slightly traumatized over losses, you're going to react a lot quicker. You're going to have that hair trigger reaction where you're going to enter the market too quickly or too late, reverse positions quickly, cut profits too short, and hold losses too long. This is all a process or a result of having this traumatic effect in terms of trading. And so over the course of 6 to 12 months, you'll be able to really see that you're actually starting to maintain a level of calm. The markets don't get you that excited or nervous anymore. You can not take a trade and not beat yourself up anymore. Some of the responses that we get from our traders is that they turn around and say, I don't beat myself up anymore when I make a losing trade. And this is a part of that process. These are normal steps towards the process of peak performance. And peak performance, there's a number of characteristics of peak performance. As I said before, it's being able to, on demand, get into a state of clarity when you need it. It's the ability to hold the state of clarity, and it's the ability to be able to bounce back from a losing trade or a missed trade and be able to not dwell down, or what they call spiral down effect. You very quickly can refocus and get back into a peak state, even though you've just copped a hit. In soccer, for instance, it'd be like it's 0-0. You've had 5 shots on goal. You've hit the crossbar a couple times and the post, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they score a goal, and you go into half time, into the sheds, down 1-0. And it's the ability to refocus, get back onto the pitch, and get to playing your best regardless of the fact that you're losing 1 or 2-0 and win the game 2-1, 3-2, or 5-2. So again, this is a process that is taught. It's a competency that we teach our traders using wearable technology so that you're educated and that you can start to recognize in yourself oh, wow, I now can feel my fingers getting cold and the screen's telling me that I'm not in a really good state to trade right now. So you start to create a different type of self-awareness where you become educated in your own state of peak performance. You can you're more self-aware, and you can self-regulate yourself so that you can take yourself out of a losing mindset and put yourself back on demand into a peak state when you need to.
So with your training, in addition to the measuring device, is there any other type of training, like a meditation or some sort of self-awareness training that goes along with the device that can help you get into that state faster?
Not in terms of meditation. What we do is our focus is really on biology. Mm-hmm. So what actually happens is the term's called coherence. And what it means is the ability to correlate your heart rate with your breath rate. Now, when people meditate, that ends up being a result of meditation, right? So even if you're just sitting down, relaxing, sitting on the beach, and just in the mood of the whole thing, you will be in a state of coherence. All of a sudden, just naturally, because you've relaxed, your breath rate will start to dictate your heart rate, and they'll be synchronous. When your two largest organs are moving in synchrony, what that does is it calms your mind down as well, because there's no friction happening between these two large and most important organs that you have. But we don't focus on the meditative side, we focus more on the quantitative side. And so we focus on measuring the heart rate and the breath rate and getting you to focus on controlling your breath rate to approximately 6 breaths per minute. If you consistently hold your breath at six breaths per minute, you will start to develop heart rate, breath rate coherence. And if you do it consistently for at least 6 months, you would have then trained your autonomic nervous system to do it by itself. Wow, and so that's why you can start to have this on demand.
So then it becomes what happens is, Hugh, is that it becomes a subconscious habit. Mm-hmm. It's basically wired into not only in the nervous system, but it's also wired into our brain and our body, that this is kind of a state that we can just naturally enter. You know, this is something that's very important to understand that a lot of people don't, or I seem to kind of miss, which is that when your biology and your biological processes and psychophysiology are in a balanced state, they naturally kind of create this clear, focused, relaxed mindset. And so you're less disturbed by these passing of emotions, you're less disturbed by these fears or worries, and you're able to execute what your skills are tuned to. So if you have really good skills, everybody's had the experience of having a really high level or really good skills in something, but they underperform because they were worried or fearful or nervous or doubtful or lack confidence. Every trader's had that experience. When your biology is in a natural, relaxed, harmonious state, that naturally facilitates that process. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, there's a couple things that Ken mentioned, which are super important, which is that bouncing back. So if you look at all the best athletes, the best elite performers, anytime they've had a setback, one of the things that allows them to perform on an elite level is not necessarily that their skills are that much better than everybody else around them, but they're able to bounce back from a mistake faster. You know, we saw this in the World Cup this summer. Croatia was one of those teams that consistently would go down a goal or two, and they would find a way to bounce back and, you know, not let those things kind of disturb them that they're down. No, they're focusing on the solution, and they're making plays to make real changes. You see that in professional athletes. Tom Brady. How many times did you ever hear about Michael Jordan having a bad week of basketball? It just, you know, he would play on average 3 professional games a week during the season. Was there ever like a full week where you're like, wow, Michael Jordan was way off for that entire week? It never happened. Yeah. Why? Because he had taught himself to bounce back. In fact, he actually did visualization and meditation exercises to see himself making a mistake, then picking himself up, recognizing the mistake, and then immediately picking himself up and focusing on what he needs to do, stealing the ball, grabbing the rebound. He would mentally rehearse this in his mind over and over again so that it became, over months and months, it became this automatic process that Ken was talking about, that when it came game time and they're down and they've made a few mistakes, he's right back in it. You would never hear such a thing about that like him. So bouncing back is an elite performance skill. It's what elite performance have, and that's one of the things that we teach.
And I wanted to mention that Chris mentioned a very important point that maybe was not obvious to everyone, and that is the role of a coach. The role of a coach is extraordinarily powerful. And so just when you mentioned like the Croatian national side, a coach is the type of person that can recognize that this is a trigger that my team needs, right? So yeah, Croatia, obviously by fluke, had got themselves into a situation where they needed and felt good being the underdog and being one goal down, right? So can you imagine, you could have two types of coaches. One coach that walks into the thing and panics and says, "Oh my God, we're down 1-0 and it's halftime and it's the quarterfinals, right?"
Yeah.
That's going to just set the team off in a spiral down. Where fortunately, the Croatian national coach was the type of person who walked in there and said, "This is what we need. This is our trigger. This is what inspires us now to come out in the second half and actually to win the game. We needed this one goal against us." And so in the trading environment, Chris and I had a webinar with Etienne Kret from Desire to Trade a few weeks ago, and he mentioned about himself having a coach, then dropping the coach when he starts getting a couple good results and then spirals down again. And so what Chris and I have been speaking about and doing individually with our own traders, but especially now that we're working together, is trying to give people that awareness of the coach is the person to give you that unbiased perspective, that objective viewpoint, to consistently have you moving forward in the right directions, to recognize certain things which are excellent traits in yourself, which you might not be able to see yourself. And in this quantitative process, to be able to get people all the faster to that state of consistent peak performance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true. I think in any endeavor, the best people have a coach. And I think that's a good segue into the hedge fund portion of what you guys are doing. So can you tell us a little bit about the hedge fund, what kind of support you would get with that, what kind of education you get with that, and I guess just the general opportunity?
So we've developed this online hedge fund with the focus of being the first online hedge fund where, regardless of experience, regardless of training and background, that we can teach people how to put themselves in positions to make the most optimal trading decisions and avoid the least optimal ones. The bottom line is that when your biology is off, the chances of you making a bad decision, an emotional decision, an incorrect analysis, missing details, remembering things wrong, letting your emotions kind of dictate you instead of your kind of prefrontal cortex and executive functions really take over, the chances of you making those decisions is really high. And making those mistakes is really high. And our job is to teach people how to avoid that through a combination of coaching and technology. So we've created basically 3 different levels of training for people to join our hedge fund. And the first is the developing tier, or developing program. And that's for people who are relatively new to trading, who are not necessarily sure they want to do this professionally full-time, 8 hours a day or anything like that. But they do know that they want to work with a coach, and they do know that it's that them being able to get this kind of feedback and make the best decisions possible in the most optimal states. They recognize the importance of that, and they feel like, hey, I feel like I have the skills and the capacity to do this, but I need coaching, and I need to be able to kind of shown how to get into these states and make these optimal trading decisions as much as possible. and avoid the mistakes. We created another level of this program, the next level of the intermediate, and that's for people that have a few years experience. They've probably traded live at this point. They've probably gone through an account or two at this point, and they've sought out training through various courses. They've worked on certain things, but they're really struggling to get past very specific hurdles within their trading process. So we're going from more general problems to more specific problems as we move up the program. And so these are people that are struggling with very specific behaviors, repeating certain patterns, not pulling the trigger when they have a trade set up, or not risking the same amount consistently. They find themselves consistently making the same mistakes, and they have awareness that they make those mistakes, but they don't know how to get past those hurdles. That's what the intermediate program is. And through that process, they're going to get a lot more feedback with us, a lot more interaction with a combination of webinars, peak performance coach calls, and greater analysis and more frequent analysis of their biodata. So that's the gist and the kind of structure of the intermediate program. And then we have a professional program for people who are 100% all in. This is what they want to do. They want to, possibly trade for a prop firm or a hedge fund, our hedge fund. They want to trade professionally for a living. They want to trade pretty large accounts, and they want to really push themselves to the next level. We developed a professional program for that, which is, instead of 6 months long like the others, it's 12 months long, and the feedback model is very frequent and very intense. So we're doing immense amount of analysis on their trading, on their biodata, on their performance. And we're like a regular professional athlete gets feedback every single time that they're on the field. Same thing we'll be doing with our professional level students. So,
and just to touch on the technology for the fund as well, just to give a bit of an insight. So, there's two things that are very important in trading for a fund. The first thing is that there's the support. There's a support of the people that are in there, the people that are running it, and this is why it's very difficult for retail traders to consistently make money, because you're pretty much sitting there by yourself in your office or at home, and you're trying to do a lot of things on your own. Mm-hmm. With the hedge fund that we're starting, we're going to take care of all of the back office. All you have to do is worry about trading. In addition to all that, we're going to be monitoring you as a professional athlete. The software is developed so that it will mitigate trades and optimize your trades on its own account as well. So if it sees that you're in a suboptimal state, it will not pass trades through to the exchange. Much the same way, we can optimize the algorithm so that they start to even hold your positions longer, even though you want to exit too soon. We have the opportunity of being able to keep those positions and not allow you to close a winning trade too early. So this is the type of technology that we're integrating into the hedge fund, into the software side of things, to be the very first and most advanced, technologically advanced hedge fund in the world. So this is that type of support, and why we can take people who are break-even traders and mitigate their trades as of back office and actually turn them into profitable traders. So really we're flipping the whole B book upside down, and as opposed to taking advantage of your losing trades, our back office will not allow those losing trades to be passed through to the exchange.
Mm-hmm. So I'm sure people are going to be wondering, there's 3 tiers. Can anybody sign up for any tier and still try out for the hedge fund?
Yes. So it doesn't matter what tier a student or trader joins with us. And joining any tier automatically gives them the opportunity to trade for us. Now, there's other conditions that we have for them to get funded after the 6 months, and those are consistent behavioral profiles. So consistent behavioral profiles they're consistently managing their risk the same amount, trading the same instruments, same times of the day. Those are consistent behavior profiles. That's what we're looking for, because those give us a framework for really how to measure what is working for them and what is not, and how we can change that, improve that. If those variables are constantly changing, we'll never get a real baseline. No trader ever will. Mm-hmm. So that's another requirement. And then over a 6-month period, on demo or live, it does not matter, they have to be at least 1% profitable at the end of that 6-month term on demo or live. And so if they join any tier of the program, they complete all the work requirements in there, they have consistent behavior profiles and meet that 1% thing, then they have an opportunity to get funded us. We'll fund them at that point.
For everybody out there, step one in becoming a consistently profitable trader, step one in the whole process is to be a consistently losing trader. That's step one. Mm-hmm. You want to at least consistently be trading. So many traders start to trade, have a couple losses, and then stop trading. Mm-hmm. And then they come back a couple months after. Yeah, or they come back a couple months after they've licked their wounds, and then come back at it again, get hit again, and stop again. And that it just keeps you stuck in that consistently beginning stage all the time. And so you're not a consistent trader. You want to get consistency. Like Chris said, we want to see that if you've said that you have made time, if you've allocated to trade 3 days a week, over the course of doing the program with us, those 6 months, we want to see you consistently trading those 3 days. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if you're going to be losing every trade, but we at least want you to sit there and be able to commit and to follow that commitment with the action. Because when you're trading those 3 days, then now we can start to work on decreasing the losses and throwing a few winning trades in there. But if you're not sitting at the computer, you can't get a winning trade.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What about splits? How are you paid out as a trader in the fund?
So we have a 20% model, mm-hmm. which is that basically whatever we take we charge 20% to our investors and our clients in terms of, hey, if they're trading $10 million in capital and we do a 20% return, which is $2 million, we're going to take 20% of that. Mm-hmm. And so we offer our traders basically whatever profits that they're making, we split it between them and us basically. So they're having a chance to get anywhere funded between 10,000 and up to 10 million USD. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of funding available for this, and so we're trying to get as many traders into the fund as possible within the next year. The more we get funded, obviously, the bigger our program grows and the more success. You know, I don't want to say it's going to be like Turtle 2.0, but I feel pretty confident that we're going to be something very unique out there when we start showing people how our traders are performing.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Now, what about people who are going to say that, 20%, that's kind of low compared to something like Top Step or Darwin X or something like that?
First off, I don't think through any of those programs you have a chance to get funded up to 10 million USD. Yeah. I've talked to people. Some of my students have taken some of those programs, and they just came to me and they're like, "Yeah, they gave me $1,200 to start with," mm-hmm. and I'm like, "Okay, that's great that they started them off with a small amount, but there's to build up from there to any sizable capital is." If you think about it, it's not very much. So let's say a trader's trading 10 million. They do a 20% return. They made a $2 million in profit. They're getting 20% of that. They get to make $400,000 working from home. I'm pretty sure that 95% of all the people who are listening to that right now are going to be realizing that that's a lot more money than they're making right now.
Yeah. But there's a distinction as well. There's in terms of types of funds. Mm-hmm. One is proprietary funds, which is what these guys are doing, right? They're taking out $1,200 and they're saying, trade it, and we're going to we'll split the profits. But in addition to our own proprietary funds, we're actually taking on institutional funds as well. Mm-hmm. And so you can't cut the profits on institutional money because it's someone else's money. And so to be able to get 20% of the profits for the fund is exceptional, and that's quite difficult to negotiate as well. So we have to consider that when we're talking about what sort of cut a profit a trader is going to take. It depends on the type of capital that he's trading. Is he trading our own proprietary money, or is he trading funds which are allocated to us from an institutional or a professional investor?
And you have to factor in the back-end support.
Yeah, we're basically saying, look, just like Tom Brady, when he shows up, he doesn't have to decide what plays he's running that day. That's done by the coach. He doesn't have to decide what uniform he's wearing that day. He doesn't have to decide what the footballs are going to be like. He doesn't have to decide any of those things. He's just told to show up, get mentally and physically ready, and then get out there and perform. And that's what they take care of everything else for him. Anything else he needs to do that is being provided for him. We're offering that as well. So we're giving the technological support. We're giving the analysis support. We're giving the feedback. We're giving the funds. We just want traders to show up to their desk and perform and just make trades. Just buy and sell in the market, make money. That's what we want them. Just make those trading decisions. We'll take care of the rest. And so, most people don't have that opportunity. They're having to do all that on their own right now. Mm-hmm. And that is exhausting. Imagine trying to be the Formula One driver and the guy who has to be the mechanic and the guy who has to change the tires in the middle of the race. It's just not going to work. So that's what we're offering.
A question always is, how many retail traders in the world are there that have institutional money to trade?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
1%?
And why is that? It's because, and that's because you can't. There's no structure. An institution or even a professional investor, what is he trusting? A guy sitting in a small little office or sitting at home trading. Like, there's so many things that institutions, hedge funds, banks have. There's so many checks and balances in place that make sure that at the end of the year, we will more than likely make a profit. Mm-hmm. And that's why the institutions and professional investors park their money in certain types of vehicles, that's called, or businesses. And this is what we're offering to all the retail traders. We will take care of all of the back office, all the regulatory stuff, plus we'll give you the latest technology, which I guarantee you in the next 5 years, all of the banks and hedge funds will be using. The only difference with us is that we are the ones who are the first to do it. Mm-hmm. And so it's an excellent opportunity for retail traders to finally move into a professional environment and be treated and coached and managed in a professional way, just like the best traders at Goldman Sachs get treated and managed as well. It's the same thing.
Yeah, totally. I think there's a little nuance here with your program that maybe people haven't caught. So I just want to be sure to emphasize that. And that is, you can get paid on your own trading, but you can also get paid on what the AI does. Is that correct? Correct.
So the way that the user interface is set up now is that the algorithms by themselves will take trades and close trades by themselves. Mm-hmm. And you can do one of either two things. You can enable the buttons to be totally AI driven, or you can disable them and be trading manually. Even if you are trading manually, the AI still will make trades on your behalf. So, and we do that for the protection of the fund. From experience, we know that the AI using your biodata and price will trade better than you do. And many traders will still want to have that flexibility of being able to enter into trades on their own. And it happens that you do see an opportunity that the AI doesn't. This happens often. And it happens the other way around, where you actually take the wrong side of the market where the AI hasn't. Sometimes, and a lot of the times the AI will respond faster to an opportunity than what the trader can. And so this is the way that we have this extraordinary flexibility and a very developed risk management model so that we can mitigate risk and optimize gains for the trader.
Oh, that's amazing. So we're coming up on 45 minutes, and I really appreciate you guys taking the time out. Maybe we could just end with a few rapid fire questions. And I know these are the questions that probably people want to get answers to, but since this is a recorded webinar, I just wanted to make sure that I covered them. So if they can't sign up right now, could they sign up later? Are you going to have another class of traders?
Yes, we're going to start another round in 6 months after the first program starts February 11th. Enrollment closes at the end of this year for that. We have less than maybe 10 slots for all the tiers combined together. Once those are filled, then the next slots won't open up till 6 months after that. So that'll be August 11th. So, or sometime in August, we'll restart the next round of the program.
Okay, cool. Does the trader have to have any certifications?
No.
Okay. Does it matter where they live?
No.
Nope. As long as they have access to a good internet connection and Bluetooth capacity on their computer, no other requirements of that.
Very cool. Is there a desk fee or some sort of maintenance fee as a trader?
No, just the program fee itself.
Okay.
The training program itself, each program developing intermediate pro has their own fee, but there's no other fee on top of that.
About how long do you have to wear the device every day?
We like a minimum of 15 minutes a day, but ideal would be an hour. So after a few weeks or months of using it, we'd like them to build up to that.
Okay.
Yeah, but you definitely build up to it. We'll start with 15 minutes and you build up.
Is more better?
Well, it's not that easy. It's not that easy to maintain that level of concentration and also breath rate, heart rate coherence when you're not used to performing in such a way. It's not that easy. It's very easy to get tired after 5-10 minutes.
Okay.
So that's why we build. It's conditioning. We've got to build up your conditioning. Your diaphragm is a muscle, so we need to build that. Your heart is a muscle. We need to build that up.
Is it FX only?
No, any asset class.
And when is the last day to register for this current class?
December 31st, the end of this year.
Okay, very cool. Well, gentlemen, again, thank you very much for coming on. Are there any last comments that you want to make?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no, this was a pleasure. And, if anybody does have any questions and they want to contact us, they can contact me at secondskiesforex.com or contact Ken directly at neurotrader.com.
Awesome. Well, I think this is a really exciting opportunity. And if you want to trade for a living, guys, I think this is a great way to do it. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you for listening to the Trading Lifestyle Podcast. To listen to all of the other episodes and get free access to Forex trading tools, tutorials, and resources, visit tradingheroes.com.